So Julie and I, we got out of the house today. We're exploring some of the trails along the river here in Cuenca. It's a pretty day out. It's probably in the upper 60s, low 70s, cool. The weather's just absolutely perfect. And the scenery is gorgeous. Hope you appreciate it. You'll notice Julie and I in these videos and in the pictures typically we'll have a backpack on. We're still under curfew here in Cuenca, Ecuador, and one of the reasons you could go out is to go shopping. So what we found is we're going shopping, but sometimes we're taking the longer route to stretch our legs. We're avoiding people, but it gives us a chance to explore and see what's going on in Cuenca, what it looks like. So these videos are meant to show you what we're experiencing firsthand, sights on the ground. There's been a lot of misinformation about what's going on in Ecuador, and there have been some very bad situations in Guayaquil down on the coast due to the coronavirus. But here in Cuenca, it's been very calm, it's very quiet, and most people have been very compliant with following the directions. You'll notice most people on the streets that we're passing will have on masks, and most people are taking this very, very serious. Now, we were hoping, if you heard in previous videos, that we hoped that on April 5th we'd get a loosening of some of the restrictions, and right now here we are on May 1st, and we're crossing our fingers that May 17th we can get a reprieve or some loosening of some of these restrictions that we're currently facing. Right now there's a curfew in place from 2 p.m. to 5 a.m. and that goes from Monday through Saturday, and Sunday you're not supposed to go out at all. Cars are allowed to be on the street one day a week based on their license plate number, and if it gets loosened to the next level, then they can go out 2 times per week. But you'll see here that there's not a lot of chaos here in Ecuador, or at least not in Cuenca. It's very, very peaceful. This is the college campus. The local college university is closed down. Not much going on here, not much education. It's just very, very quiet, and I'm sure there's a lot of students wishing to get back to their education and onto their future. The Guyas province along the coast has been the worst hit with Guayaquil, and they've made the news in the US, and some of the situations have been kind of pulled out of proportion. You'll see the darker red area there of Guayas province is where Guayaquil is. We're in the Azuay province, and currently there's 421 cases of coronavirus here in the Azuay province. So that comes out to 421 out of 650,000 people. So it's a fairly low rate. Unfortunately, when they were given the opportunity to loosen the restrictions for May 4th, the mayors in Ecuador all decided to keep the restrictions in place until the 17th of May. What you'll see here is the local modern hospital. This is about 300 yards from where we're staying at our Airbnb. You'll see it's pretty calm. There's not a lot of commotion or a lot of energy or chaos going on here. The current situation here is not overloading or taxing the healthcare system. What you'll also notice as we come around the corner of the building, looking towards the emergency room entrance, there's not a whole lot of activity down that direction either. There have been a lot of expats or Americans asking if they can return to Ecuador or come to Ecuador, and they've have plane flights for July, August, September. It's hard to say what the current schedule is going to look like for traveling to Ecuador and coming back to Cuenca if you're currently outside of the country. But as many of you are aware, there's been a lot of bad press and misinformation put out throughout the United States by the typical offenders that like to exaggerate some of the news. Now, to be fair, the Guayas province in Guayaquil has been hit very, very hard. As of today, Cuenca High Life, the local English online newspaper, showed that the Guayas province, Guayaquil, has returned to their normal rate of death for a city of 3 million, of about 60 per day. So things seem to have stabilized there. We expect that hopefully on May 17th we'll get some loosening of restrictions, but I don't know if I would plan on flying back or seeing a flight coming into Ecuador prior to August, and that's just my opinion, nothing official. We heard that Argentina was suspending international flights until September, and there's a consensus that many believe that potentially that's what Ecuador will do as well. So if you're looking at coming back to this region, I would make sure I've got a refundable ticket or that you're flexible with your planning. I've had friends send me articles from newspapers or news outlets in the US about bodies being burned in the street in Guayaquil, and that may or may not have happened. It sounds like there were some fires that were set in the streets, sometimes with furniture, to draw attention from the authorities to come to bring a body from the house to the mortuary. Since most of the mortuaries were closed in Guayaquil, there was a backup, and the military and the police had to bring the bodies from the homes to some place to be stored, or to a hospital, or to a mortuary. As you can see here in Cuenca, there's no bodies are being burned on the street. It's very peaceful. Most people are very friendly. You can't see the smiles through the masks, but I'm pretty sure they're there. Most of the people we've dealt with have been very warm and genuine. So we're trying to show you as much as we can of Cuenca and the streets and the scenery from our experiences of going to the markets and going shopping. These videos come from several different days, but we're showing you the historic areas and some of the parks and the walking areas along two of the rivers that cross through Cuenca. Now, Julie and I, we never thought when we flew in here on March 15th and went under lockdown as soon as we landed that we would be looking at a 2-month lockdown. So we're looking at a May 17th at the soonest of having some of the curfews or restrictions lifted, and it may be in the June timeframe or maybe even July till we actually get to go to a restaurant. We planned on being in Ecuador until September 11th, or actually September 10th, and we're looking at least a third of our time in Ecuador being in a quarantine or curfew situation. We're quite eager to get out and actually mingle with some people, see what it's like to live in Cuenca on a regular basis so that we can report back to you what it's like to live here. We'll be leaving September 10th to go to Peru, where we'll go to Cusco up near Machu Picchu and spend a month there, and then we'll spend a month in Lima before moving on to Chile and Argentina. But for right now, we're trying to give you the best idea of what it's like to be in Ecuador, and hopefully for those of you that are expats or people not in the country that are wondering what it's like on the streets in Cuenca, if there's chaos, if it's mayhem like what you've seen in the news outlets from the States. You can see it's quite calm here, very clean. There's not a whole lot of activity. You can tell there is a little bit of angst amongst the population to get off the restrictions and to start getting back out to normal life. You'll see as we go through some of the areas here in the historic district, there are some shops that will occasionally be open, but most of them are closed and shuttered up. There's fear that at least a third of the businesses in Cuenca may not survive these curfews and these restrictions, and that a good amount of unemployment will persist after this is over. Also, 95% of the hotel rooms here apparently are also vacant, and the majority of the hotels are currently closed. So there's a large loss of income, and many people here don't live paycheck to paycheck. They live day to day. Their jobs are based on what they bring in that day to feed their families or to bring food home each day. So many people here are very, very much taxed economically due to the coronavirus epidemic and pandemic. So there's an eagerness to get back to normal. I don't think politically keeping the restrictions in place beyond May 17th will go over well. So I'm anticipating that May 17th will be the end to the full lockdown and that there'll be some loosening. I just don't think that there's a reason to push it much longer, and politically I think it's going to be really, really tough for the government to try to keep this lockdown going on beyond the 17th. So for those of you that are considering moving to Ecuador, I haven't seen any reason to discourage you from making the move, and we've been here in a very awkward time frame. But what I can tell you so far is that from our previous video that you may have seen regarding the Airbnb we're staying in, it's $720 a month, and that's with the monthly discount versus taking it by the night. And that's a 3-bedroom, very nice Airbnb, and very, very affordable. If we were choosing to live here and rent a place and bring our own furniture, you're probably looking at $350 to $400 a month, plus probably around $60 some for utilities. When you look at groceries, we're estimating that we would live here at $500 to $550 a month on groceries. As far as entertainment, we really haven't been able to do anything as far as entertainment, so that's still to be determined. But we definitely can see that there's an affordable part of living in Ecuador. So if you're looking for an affordable place for you to retire or move to, don't let the news from the US discourage you from exploring Ecuador. I would highly encourage you, when this is over, to come down, do a month exploratory trip if you can, and get an Airbnb and see what it's like to live here. One of the downsides that I wasn't anticipating is the cooler nights. Coming here from Florida, if it was below 80 degrees, it was time to start putting a jacket on. So these nights, when it gets down into the upper 40s, low 50s sometimes, it's a bit chilly for somebody from Florida. If you're coming from Canada or from the northeast or northwest, you're probably good to go with the temperatures here. If you're from Florida, just be ready for a little bit of a cold snap. It's kind of like winter for Florida here year-round. For others, it's known as the land of perpetual spring, so it's spring-type weather year-round. So when it comes to going to markets, you have the little vendors like we were just at, or you've got the large stores like Corral. And Corral is like a huge Costco, Walmart combination for those of you in the United States. And here you have to wait about an hour to get inside the store, and you go through a disinfecting spray, and you can only shop here depending on the last number of your ID on your day per week. So we've been doing a lot of our shopping from the smaller vendors on the street. This little stand is not far from our Airbnb down the road, and it's actually fairly cheap. You don't have to be here on a certain day. And on this particular day, we got to meet another expat that was in line, and we're hoping to get together with her and her husband when this lockdown is over. So it gives you a sense of community when you're going to the smaller community market. And typically Julie and I will walk out of here on our 3 trips we've made with our arms full for $20 and bringing home a ton of produce. And this also has things like peanut butter, breads, and other staples that you might need as well. They even carry toilet paper. So we literally can come here and sustain ourselves if need be. Now, if you're from Ecuador or you're an expat and you've lived in this area, if there's a place that Julie and I should go to once the lockdown is over that you feel would be important for us to explore and experience, please leave us a comment. Also, if you'd like to follow along on our journey and adventure here in Ecuador and beyond as we go to several other countries in South America over the next year, and then off to Europe for 5 to 10 years, and then Asia, please subscribe so that you can be part of our journey and we can share these experiences with you. We hope to give you a lot more information about Ecuador once we can get outside and taste a little bit of freedom in this country to see things and explore the tourist sites and really feel what it's like to live here. For now, we're limited due to the pandemic. I know all of you are feeling the pain. You're locked down more than likely somewhere, or you're having your life turned upside down, or you're not being allowed to have the experiences that you had hoped to have in the past month and the current month. So we're all in this together. We're very glad that you're here with us. We hope you subscribe. Please give this video a like. Again, this is mostly a video that we wanted to be able to show what it's like on the ground, show you that it's peaceful here, it's calm. For those of you that are following us and sending us messages about being worried about what you hear in the news, please take a look at this video. Know that we're in a safe area, and if you were here, you would be safe as well. And again, don't let this pandemic and some of the news that you've heard discourage you from experiencing what Ecuador has to offer. Thanks again, and we hope you join us on our next adventure or our next trip to the market or whatever Ecuador will allow us to have at that particular moment in time. Take care.